Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. It's pretty neat that I have been introduced into topics that serve me so well, but at the same time, I have that opportunity because, I have my YouTube channel. I have my brand that who knew where I started? Oh my goodness. It's been some years now, and to where I'm at now. And I was actually talking to somebody and bumped into somebody this afternoon while I went to the grocery store. Hadn't seen him for a while. And, you know, sweet guy. And he's on his own journey at the same time. But I like having these conversations with real people, right? Have real conversations. And he's one who gets the conversations at the very least, and we enjoy spending a few minutes together whenever we bump into each other. Oh my goodness, it's only once every few months or so. He lives in the neighborhood. We both like walks and stuff, so we do on occasion. I used to work with him, and I bumped into him today, and we were talking a little bit about well, we were talking about a few things this afternoon, but it was in that growth that we have that sometimes we lose connections. They're not as tight as they used to. It's almost like you have to go back to that moment when you were hanging out together forever. You know, you can imagine being 30, 40 years old, and every Friday night you're going back to when you're 18 because you have the same friends now. And even though all your friends have different lives, some of them have gone off to college, some of them have babies, some of them went in a different direction altogether. But Friday nights you all go out and you go clubbing or whatever it is that you did when you were 18 years old, and you put yourself back into that time, and it is in that reminiscence, and we tend to remember the good times, right? And I was talking to this gentleman this afternoon, and I says, most of the time we're paying attention so much to what's going on in our lives. It's not going on good, right? That we're so focused on that we're not paying attention to all the things that are going good, even if they're just little things, even if they're small gratefulness, getting out of a bind, having a health scare not turn into something serious, and you know finding maybe you cut yourself and it's not as bad as you thought it did. It was just more scary looking than it was in damage. And it was important because you need your fingers because you're training to be North America's Olympic ping pong champion. I don't know. I'm trailing off in that altogether. But sometimes we don't pay attention to all the wonderful things, even in some of those relationships sometimes that we do find difficult. We just look for the terrible, right? He's a hole and he's so nasty. And oh my goodness, can he wipe his feet? And oh my goodness, he's giving me a headache. And right? And we don't think, oh my goodness, he took the garbage out to the curb without being told to do that. Oh my goodness. He put oil in my car without me having to ask. Oh my goodness, who's banging up on the roof? Oh my goodness. He's I've been asking for that roof to be fixed for the past couple of weeks, and oh my goodness, it's the middle of the night, and he's up there and he's fixing that because he knows there's a storm coming, and then it's in these small thoughtfulness where we can find real joy. It's kind of lots of times, even if we don't find that joy for ourselves, because lots of people live in this world in a joyless kind of existence, because they can't trust parts of themselves. And so parts of themselves are kind of diminished or held in place by values and stuff. And you know right, it sometimes it makes life boring. It makes it so that you look for things to be mischievous in, because you need to bring excitement into your life. And I don't know where I was going with that, but it is true. We have to find the good things when things are going badly, like, and even like I said, when you're looking at it through the perspective of somebody else's eyes, like your kids on Christmas morning when their eyes light up with the Christmas presents, those moments that we can find that can stir something inside of us, even if that stirring is just a memory. But it's just a memory for the moment, right? It takes time. It's crying and talking and time, and these things will ease up, you know, uh, and you'll feel a little bit better. But again, sometimes it gets so bad that it doesn't get better, that it, gets somebody to the point where they actually want to give up in life. And you know life can be difficult. I've known myself a couple of people who have given up in life, and no judgment in that, except to say, any moment that you can stick around is another moment that you can help those other parts of you maybe have a way to talk somebody out of, right? Calling it quits, giving up, right? That maybe we can find a way, right, to enjoy life. It isn't all bad, even in the very worst of it. I'm going back in my memory this moment to Anne Frank, and how she found joy in life, and she was locked up in an attic. You know, she didn't technically have a life, and yet she created one. She created one in her physical life, and she created one in her imagination, and she created one for prosperity. And in that, she gets to live, right? In that, she gets to be somebody's example, that somebody might be able to live vicariously through her experience, and then maybe not have to have that experience themselves. It's true. I've been very focused all my life, not always focused on the right things, but focused on my own safety. And usually I'm focusing on my own safety. I was focusing on the experience of other people, and I was putting myself vicariously through other people's lives so I could understand how they ticked. Let me have a sip. So I could understand how they ticked. I could understand in a way that I could better protect myself, that I could better socially get along with others, that maybe I could understand what was wrong with me for whatever reason. I was zoned in. And in zoning in, you learn by that, right? And the one thing I learned is that things get better. That, it's like sitting there and listening to your best friend go off about the boyfriend that just broke up with her and it's the end of the world and she wants to kill herself and right, right. But you're there and and she knows you're not going to let anything like that happen, right? But you sit through that, right? Because that's your friend, that's somebody that you care about, and that person needs to know that somebody cares about them in that moment. And that is just one example of a gazillion on a weekly basis. I was that confident confidant, right? That person that people could talk to, and not just talk to so that they can get stuff off their chests, that they could have somebody that could nod and right. But I truly understood, because I understood then, because the whole time I was living vicariously through their experiences, right? I even felt in those breakup and those relationships, because those were relationships that I wanted for myself too. So I learned through those experiences in being that person that somebody could talk to. And it's in sharing these experiences usually that we do better understand each other. Doesn't make us any different. It doesn't make us any more the same, right? We're all uniques, but it's nice to know that there are other people out there, right? Kind of bumbling along, right? Understanding a little bit more. But not knowing what to do with that. And again, I'm grateful for my platform, but not everybody wants to be a YouTuber. Not everybody wants to be in thought leadership, right? And I didn't know that I wanted to be in thought leadership. It was one of those cranks in my life, right? That came into my life and swept me up, turned me into that pit bull with a piece of raw meat in my mouth. But oh my goodness, did it ever prevent me from making some missteps in the little bit of a existence that I had, right? I understand a little bit better. Do I understand it all? No, I'm bumbling along just like everybody else. But the more I bumble along, the more I bump into, and the more I bump into, the more I experience, the more I experience, the more that I learn, and the more that I learn, the more that I can share, right? And that sounds like fun to me, but probably doesn't sound like too much fun for anybody else. Unless they're sitting in the spectator stand. I just had the image of, oh my goodness, what was the name of that movie? They made a remake of it, Runner, the Runner. I just had the image of that movie. But don't be looking at me like that. I'm looking to enjoy my life too. And also, you know, in what I want to accomplish, I want it to benefit, you know, for generations down the road, that a lot of these things that we struggled with, maybe we won't struggle with them going down the road, right? And then if anybody down the road should wake up to some of these ideas, that maybe they would better understand and make some better choices, make some different choices. For myself, I kind of understand where my family got it wrong, but I don't think where my family got it wrong that any other family was too far off that same mark. And, in moving forward, I am that creation of the best human being I possibly can be, right? You'll only know what you know until you know it, right? And, we can't beat ourselves up for what lessons we missed in the past. But there is no excuse anymore, right? That accountability and that understanding, right? That we just gotta be a little bit kinder to ourselves, right? And in doing that means we have to be kinder to others, right? Because we're all in the same, right? You get what you give. Do unto others. Oh my goodness. That was one of my dad's biggest quotes. We heard that every day, right? From the time I could understand words until the time I left his house, right? And yeah, my whole family, we lived on quotes. And if I hadn't bumped into an experience, right? I might not have recognized it if it wasn't for my very own experience in that. And that's usually how it feels, and it's usually how it is, right? It's usually how it gets your attention. Okay, you guys, let's just grab a card here. Merry Christmas. I think we're going into Christmas season now. Um, uh, Christmas Eve tomorrow, I will be probably just clean up my house so when I come home tomorrow night, everything's nice and clean. I got myself a turkey breast, and I'm going to roast that up. No point in a whole turkey just for me because, right, I don't eat dark meat and that's just too much. It would go to waste. So I just picked up a turkey breast. We're just gonna right. I got some cranberries. We're just gonna have a nice dinner and nice quiet dinner. But tomorrow night, if you guys wanna come in, hang out, uh, we're going live at 7:30 Central. Tomorrow we spend Christmas Eve together. We've been doing it for a very long time. Oh my goodness, at least a half a dozen. Oh my goodness, at least a half a dozen years. And I should go back, right? But things just kind of happen and then it's just on to the next year. And that's what movement forward is just getting from one moment to the next moment. But each one of us has choices in that space of those moments to create comfortability or prosperity or insights or relationships. Like, right, that space is there. And it's just a matter of, right, just getting up and getting into those boots, whether it's your boots or somebody else's boots, right? I live vicariously, like I said, through other people's experiences. Even sitting here, and I'll sit here and I'll watch the people across the street because there's always, it's like a party across the street. There's always somebody out there. And, you can just kind of go into their head for a second to see, you know, what kind of life they live, what kind of person They are. And just look at different aspects that add to the evidence of that. And it's not a matter of judging, even though it does feel like judging in that. But again, it could be just practicing my craft, right? Because in hypervigilance, it's about being vigilant. When we live in a world now where our vigilance is almost non-existent, we'll space out on a dot in a wall. Hello, Nancy, right? And that's true. That's how our attention could just be just like this at any moment. I would much rather practice skills that will keep me fit too. Hello, I knew that was you, Nancy. I knew I've known Nancy for years and years, going back years. I can't remember. We were trying to think how many years we've been doing the Christmas Eve party, but I can't even remember. It's at least a half a dozen years, right? Maybe 8 or 9 years. Um, oh, I didn't know that. I'll Google that after my live show. I didn't know that. I haven't been in other people's my content is so tight right now. I feel so bad for that. I really enjoyed his videos and his adventures too. I'm sorry to hear that. He came in just in time. I was just going to pull a card here. We're going into Christmas Eve. I hope everybody has the most amazing Christmas. Like I said, if you're not doing anything, you want to hang out for a little bit, 7:30 Central, we'll be here. We've been doing it for years now. You get to watch me open my Christmas stocking. That's my sister buys me every year. She does the most amazing stockings. This year she was like threatening to cancel the stockings, and both of our sisters said, no, no, because we do nice stockings for her too. But nobody does stockings like my sister Tracy. You get everything and anything, right? In those stockings. Yeah, it's part of Christmas traditions. Okay, you guys, let's grab the card. Oh, thank you, Nancy. And I'll let everybody know that tomorrow too. Oh, I would think that he is. He wasn't very old either. He couldn't have been in his 40s, right? Okay, here's the word. Oh, this is a good one, you guys. I haven't had this word for a while, and I've got two of this one in my deck. Acceptance is being okay in not having a say, right? And that is, the first things that I came to my mind when this word acceptance came up was those acceptances in our limitations. You know, the one thing about acceptance in our limitations is that we can kind of give up on beating ourselves because we kind of accept it, you know. But a lot of times people will accept their situation, but will still be and complain about it and grumble and tell the stories of the what ifs, or lay the blame, if I didn't have kids or if I didn't marry you. And lots of times in that we'll just accept it, right? But if we don't truly accept it, it will make us petty, miserable, right? Jealous, full of resentment. And we lay that on the people around us because we don't want to hold those kind of feelings inside of us. Lots of times people just think they're just so righteous that they can't hold it. Somebody else has got to hold it. But even if you don't mind holding it for yourself, you don't want to be in that discomfort, that heartbreak, that pain, right? So lots of times you'll just accept it so that if you accept it, then that pain goes away, right? Because it's not a struggle anymore because you accept it. But if you accept it, you truly do have to accept it. The disappointment, that never achieving, right? You can't blame others for where you're at. For me, there are things in my life that, I have come to accept that, that will trigger me, that will make me feel bad. It doesn't matter. You could chop all my fingers off and you can't make me do it or say it or believe it. And, it's to each one of us to decide. That's why they call it acceptance. Each one of us to decide for ourselves what's true for us or not, right? In accepting it, you have to get yourself to that point of believing it. And, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It's a terrible thing because, it always surfaces and you got to be pretty strong and pretty amazing, right? Just to accept the situation. It's different when you've lost your leg. You have to accept that, right? Right? You can work around it with prosthetics and stuff, but that leg is never coming back. But when you give up on your dream at 80 years old and you're rocking in that rocking chair, that word accepting comes up. How are you going to look at yourself, right? When you made that decision 30 or 40 years ago to accept where you are, right? And not be able to blame not having your dreams fulfilled on anything or anyone because you made that decision. I know you, Nancy. I know you never give up, right? I can't wait to team up with you in another lifetime because you're gonna be my bodyguard, Nancy. No problem. I'm gonna hang with you and just do what you say, and we're just gonna travel the country, right? And who knows what this country is gonna look like at that point. But I would trust you in that. It would be kind of like Thelma and Louise. That's probably exactly what it would be like. And I'm always up. I know those other parts of me are always up for a good adventure, right? As long as it knows it has a roof over its head. You guys, acceptance is being okay in not having a say. I put a different spin on that a little bit, right? Because it's kind of saying, you laid those chicken eggs and now you got to hatch them is what's that saying, right? Right? That you've got to accept the decisions that you make along the way. You have to accept the choices, the good choices and the bad choices. And at the end of that, you can't say anything negative. You can in the reviewing in the possibilities of what not to do next time, but you can't grumble and complain and do the what ifs and lay that on other people in your missed dreams. I would much rather look at it in a way of baby steps, not to ever quit in that. right? Not to get to the point where you just accept what other people have labeled you as or labeled you as capable of, or you may have even labeled yourself, right? That way because, you've gotten to the point in life where, right, you've just handed over that power to somebody else to decide whether or not you're capable or not. And you've just accepted somebody else's opinion as fact. And that's something to take into consideration too, right? But once you accept, you can't complain about it, right? And you laid those eggs, now roost on it. I'm trying to think, it's in my head, but I have no ideas, right? So, in acceptance and putting that different spin on it, right? You don't get to have a say when these topics of acceptance come to a surface because you gave up on that topic. You gave up on those possibilities and those, right? Those experiences that could have put you in a different spot. And you can't blame anybody, right, for still making that movement when you've accepted not to make the movement, right? If somebody else wins that gold medal that you wanted so bad but weren't willing to put the work in that you gave up, right? Shake that person's hand, congratulate them, right? And be okay with not having a say in that, right? You're not star in that moment, right? Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. We'll be back tomorrow, 7:30 Central, for Christmas Eve little hangout. I don't know if I'm going to wear my pajamas. I won't know if I have enough time to get dressed in my pajamas and stuff and get settled in. I'm going to my sister's tomorrow. We're going to do a little family celebration for a couple hours, and then everybody's going to go off and do their own thing with their own families, right? And that's what Christmas is all about, not putting that pressure on, right? Who makes it, makes it. Who doesn't make it. There is no guilt and shame on that. Those little presents will just go home with a parent or a sibling or a child, and it'll all be good. And we'll just, right, be content with that. I've got a new great grandniece that's actually due on Christmas Day. So anything could happen. Okay, you guys. Merry Christmas if we don't see you tomorrow.